Done.
Hey guys, it's Troy Casey, Certified Health Nut here in Santa Monica, California. And today do I have a big treat for everyone. We've got Jason Christoff, who's a holistic health practitioner and a sports fitness aficionado, professional up there in Canada. He's got a big following on Facebook. A lot of his work is on self-sabotage and helping people fine-tune their lives and come clear and really heal themselves at a very deep, emotional, spiritual level. And then, of course, I have the wonderful Carolina Roja, also known as Sima, which is her spiritual name. She's known as Architect Goddess on Instagram. She's my team leader. She created the Holistic Justice League, and her mission is to end human suffering. So without further ado, we're going to jump into it. Carolina, you were sharing your story with Jason, and if you could please continue sharing that for the people and really help people understand, where you're coming from. And then Jason, maybe you can pick that up through your lens of expertise, and then we'll start getting into self-sabotage real soon here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Troy, for your introduction. I love you. I admire you for years. And I feel so blessed to be here on this recording with you and Jason. A little bit about me. I'm an architect. It was always my dream to become an architect. And I got my way in through college. I got into Harvard. I got into SCI-Arc, which was my top school. I got full scholarship, so I never paid a cent for any of my studies, and I graduated as an architect. I practiced professionally for about 9 years here in Santa Monica. All my work is here in Santa Monica on the west side of California. And I got to the point where I was kind of exhausted of seeing people be unhealthy, to the moment that I was in a meeting. It was a kickoff meeting. It was one of the projects that I worked for Tesla. And we were on the table, and I saw everyone, the contractor, the engineer, all the investors, plumbing, like all of the consultants were on the table. And as we're talking about this amazing design that is extremely sustainable to heal the planet, everybody was eating toxic foods. Everybody was putting the wrong kind of building blocks materials into their bodies. So I had an awaken, and I said, oh, Jesus, I've been working with the wrong kinds of materials. Instead of I've been studying steel, type 3 construction. I've been studying all kinds of glasses and toilets and tiles. And then I see everyone around me feeding themselves with junk. And this is when I took a stance and I said, I gotta renegotiate my relationship with my architecture. Instead of building buildings, I'm gonna design bodies, and I'm gonna design realities. And for that, I need to manifest the experts in my life into designing bodies, health, wellness, in a holistic approach. So I found Troy. And this is when I teamed up with Troy. I've been working with Troy for over a year now. I'm in a mission of ending human suffering, and all human suffering starts in our guts with our thoughts. And the building blocks, materials that we put into our body, they come from food. Our chi comes from food, from breath. They also come with your thoughts, your relationships. And this is what I'm standing for now. I created the Holistic Justice League with Troy and other leaders. And we have a huge team of people that come to our community to awaken their powers within themselves and activate their superhero. Because when we can heal ourselves, we can heal the world. So we all have our powers within ourselves, and self-sabotaging, limiting beliefs, negative talk, a lack of faith, all those things are what stops us from growing. So I'm excited to share that with you guys.
Well, thank you, Carolina. And Jason, we want to hear you and your history, but to set this call up for everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe either from my channel or Jason's channel. Hit the notification bell so you can get updates on all the stuff that we're promoting, which is holistic, good for the goose, good for the gander. So to set this up, before you, we want to hear a little bit of your background, Jason. but also Carolina brought up some really good points. And what I wanted to also talk about was I want to talk about overworking, overachieving. Is this self-sabotage? I think I see that, especially with my significant other, always being busy, always having to do something. I want to know what your perspective is on that. We're going to talk about self-worth, why people get used to conformity and habit. And then, Carolina, you have some other questions. Why don't we let it roll out after Jason gets started, and if there's something else that comes up, we can address it. But this is a free forum. Jason, please take it away. Your background, what you're doing on the internet, etc., right now, and what you see in the world.
Well, why do I think, what I have the impression right now that we're talking to maybe a massive leader in health with Carolina. Her energy is unbelievable. Her mission is similar to yours, Troy. I'm like super humbled just to be here today and, share the screen with everybody. My background isn't as adventurous as Carolina's or yourself. I was your typical North American, soulless, sort of empty meat bag, chasing money, putting like myself in front of the whole. There was no we when I would operate in the world for many decades. It was only me. It was sort of like what Mark Paseo said, it was me all day, every day. And because I was living a lot of lies, like Carolyn Mace always says, liars don't heal. And I was living so many different lies out simultaneously. I couldn't find any sort of emotional or spiritual or heartfelt foundation in my life. So I became very depressed. I became very physically ill, very mentally ill. And I think I've told you before that that's when I contacted the Czech Institute. And there was a lady kind enough I contacted in Toronto. Her name was Janice Marshall. And she came down in a very loving way, similar to what you both do in the heart space that you can hold for people where they're free to be themselves and they're free to express their pain. And Janice was very good with me. And she helped me come along in my spiritual development to realize all the lies that I was living. And she started with the basic ones, like we need water. And I wasn't drinking water. And we need whole live organic food. And I wasn't eating any whole live organic food. So she started with the basic lies that I was living and sort of told me indirectly that if I wanted to get to the bigger truths of the world, it was like a casino, that the universe would give me the rewards and the knowledge I needed as I built up my foundation of which truths I was living. And I had to start with the basic ones to build up to the top level of the pyramid. So I just completely trusted her. And I've been trying to heal myself and sharing my experience with others. I don't want to explain anybody's pain. I don't want to explain anybody. What I do is I share my experience with other people so it helps them explain themselves. So I do a lot of one-on-one self-sabotage coaching. I have now a certification program to certify other self-sabotage coaches, which just sold out about 3 weeks ago. So my mission is to multiply myself and teach people how to share their experience with others and lift them up like one rung at a time, help them up the ladder. You don't have to be a master. You just have to have more experience in only one area to help someone up the ladder and help them become a better person. So that's my mission at the moment, is trying to multiply myself like Paul Chek multiplied himself so that we can go out and get things. I realize we have to do more faster. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so yeah, why don't we just jump in? You had a good graphic the other day about self-sabotage with the green on the one side and the red on the other side. People that practice self-sabotage complain. People that don't, they praise others. maybe you can go through some of the basics of what you're seeing in there and some of the traps we all can potentially fall in. Because let me tell you, I've done plenty of self-sabotage in my life before. So
it's it's very, very common, the self-sabotage. Like, the reason we self-sabotage is very simple, is that we want to gain tribal acceptance. And it's inside our genetics that we want to follow and copy and mimic and emulate what's sort of in our environment. And the way we're sort of designed, if we were born into a tribe where they bit the heads off live chickens to start the morning, our brain is designed to copy everything that it sees, and it's that copying effect is very intense in the first 7 years of life. We learn 50% of our behavior before we're 5 years old, and it's all based on our brains as well. You know that the brain trims and prunes a lot of its neurological connections after 7 years, because what it's going to do is going to take in as much information as possible, and it starts to narrow down which behaviors are the type of behaviors that's going to get us accepted by the tribe, what customs, what rituals, what traditions. And unfortunately today, it's a bit of a double whammy, where we have our brains looking out at family situations where we're going to be downloaded and imprinted with a lot of behaviors that help us bond, but it's going to, the conscious mind is going to be frustrated, because if we have a situation, a family situation where everybody works 9 to 5 and things are really tight financially, and on a Friday night everybody drinks beer, and on Sunday you watch the football game, that actually is impregnated into our behavior, and it becomes very, very not dangerous, but if we try to break out of it, we are washed over with this massive fear. And that fear was always there genetically to keep us alive. And if doing what the tribe is doing makes us miserable, if it makes us overweight, if it makes us depressed, even if it makes us die early, we focus in on that behavior, even though it disgusts us, because it has the safety of the tribe is intertwined with those behaviors. And if we dare break out, even if it's going to make us happier, wealthier, make us live longer, we're going to feel this a massive rush of fear. And our brains will always pick safety over happiness. Always. That means we have to be consciously aware of it. We can do some subconscious programming to rewrite the recordings that are inside our subconscious mind, but consciously we also have to be aware of when this fear comes, that we have to consciously be aware that if our family was making $50,000 a year and we have the opportunity to make $250,000, you have to know that the fear is coming, and you have to know that that is a cue to push through. Like if you're gonna, jump off a cliff or something, that's fear. You don't push through that fear. There are fears you don't push through. But when you're becoming better and you're feeling this massive wave of fear, that's your signal to push through. That's when you got to go through the fog and emerge on the other side, and make sure that you carry all your success and all your potential and all your greatness with you, and you don't trim your own poppy just to fit into the hordes of underachievers that surround you. And that tribal fear goes both ways. So when you go, you're going to be afraid to be better. You're going to be afraid to make more money. You're going to be afraid to have a nice car and drive up to wherever you're going. And the people who are around you have the same tribal programming as you. So as you move away, they attack you. So not only do you have to deal with your own fear that you're going to be outside the tribe and putting yourself in this genetic danger, you have to have enough health reserve, energy reserve to deal with the onslaught, the barrage, the attack that comes from the people either directly belittling you, attacking you, or discouraging you from leaving the tribe. But here's the funny part. If you can become brave enough to leave the tribe and leave all the old customs and rituals behind, the tribal brain copies whatever it sees. So if you leave, someone else is going to leave too and become their best self. That's the great part of it, is that if you have the courage to do it, others will follow.
Wow. So that's good. You brought up how to program the subconscious, or you brought up, maybe you can go through some basics of that and how you recommend to go through the subconscious.
Yeah, well, the subconscious is very important. It gets programmed easy by repetition. And that repetition means that if there's a repetitive action in the society, that's why in advertising campaigns and media, they pay so much to put a Domino's pizza ad on for the Super Bowl. And you'll see it'll be a couple times, and then they'll have buffer ads or fortification ads the day after, because repetition really programs the subconscious mind. And this is how easy programming is. If you can get a repetitive image in it, the person will go eat pizza. This is proven. They will go and eat pizza because it gets downloaded as a command. Just like I think I told you before, the human brain will copy anything it sees. Do you remember the movie Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie? When it opened up in Burnaby, BC, Canada, it was a movie about car theft, and car theft went up 60% in the first weekend after opening. Humans copy whatever they see. If it's repetitive, it becomes a lot more easy for the brain to copy. So if a person's having, say, if they're having a negative financial impact in their life and they have a hard time getting going, all they have to do is expose their brain to positive financial imprints or positive financial programming or imagery by getting on with some gurus, and just drown their subconscious brain in that. And then all of a sudden, the subconscious brain, which is a safety-based application, literally says, okay, I think we've changed tribes here. We're in a tribe where we need a bit more financial abundance to fit in. And do not forget that the subconscious mind has been tested, and it does not know if Anthony Robbins is in real time or Anthony Robbins is on the screen. So if you're getting Anthony Robbins all the time, or you get some other gurus, your subconscious brain simply believes that you change tribes, and now it's to be safe, you have to be wealthier. So repetitive programming in the area that you want, if you want better relationships, if you want more love, if you want to lose weight. I remember one lady, it was very odd. She would sort of cut out the supermodel that she wanted to look like, and she'd put it on the fridge. And I knew her personally. Her body would change. It would copy the image because she would see it every morning on the fridge. And that's how intense and how interested it is in your subconscious is at copying what it sees. And it can't really make a difference if the image is just cut out or on a screen. So I tell people repetitive programming and repetitive exposure to what you really want in your life. This is the top level if you want to reprogram the subconscious brain. There are other hypnosis you can do where you can listen to hypnotic suggestions before and after you go to bed, because that's when you're in a theta state, and that's when the subconscious is open to programming. Only when you're getting up out of bed or just going to bed, and that's why people do the subconscious programming.
I actually did some of that after I went through my divorce, and downloaded some binaural beat subconscious programming off of YouTube, so I wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi, and I would literally sleep with those on my head. And within a year, I cracked my own code, which I struggled with most of my life. You know, I had plenty of self-sabotage going on, and I'm in a different place right now. But this conversation is going to make me dig up these programs again and re-listen to them, and also download some more with other things that I want to achieve in my life. And that's why I like having Carolina around here, because she did a lot of research. She did Landmark Forum extensively, and she reprogrammed her mind as well. And now we're mirrors. Actually, me, and my wife, and a couple of other people on our team were real mirrors. And I applaud Carolina because she really she shows up. She's open to coaching, and she's open to facing herself. Carolina, maybe you could elaborate a little bit of what you've been through in the last couple of years, or at least since you've done your training with Landmark.
Thank you. Yes, I actually did Landmark as soon as I left my architecture job, because I was afraid of not having my big paycheck. I was afraid of what people were going to say. I was afraid of everything, because all I knew what to do was architecture. And immediately I started with my lack mentality. Oh, I'm not going to have enough to pay my rent. Oh my God, I'm not going to have enough. I'm just going to go back into an architecture every single day. So I said, I have to invest money in really changing the plasticity of my brain. And I did some research, and I said, Landmark, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to sign up. I had no idea what Landmark was about. None. I didn't even do my research, and I usually am good at research. So I called Landmark. My friend said, oh, why don't you just do Landmark? And I was like, what is that thing? And I went on the website, and it looked too corporate. And I was like, okay, let me just call them. And it was one day when I was driving my car, and I was going to Whole Foods, and I didn't have enough money. So I was like hesitant. Do I go to Whole Foods or I go to Trader Joe's? Because I was afraid, right? I couldn't afford my food at Whole Foods. And I was crying in my car, sitting outside of Whole Foods. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this Landmark thing. And I called them, and part of the commitment is when you pay, right? So it's non-refundable. So I think it was $700 that it was for my rent, and it was a non-refundable $700. So I called, and I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, what am I going to do with my last $700? And I paid. I tried to negotiate splitting payments. Can I do half here, pay the half later? I called everyone at Landmark to see if they can get me in with a discount. And they said, no, part of the commitment is to pay. And when you pay and it's non-refundable, you already made the first step towards your transformation. So it was a huge fear that I overcame, and I paid. And I showed up the first day, and there's a chair, and they're like, for the next 40 hours, you're going to be drilling down in your brain, and you're going to have tons of breakthroughs. And everything that you know, everything that you know that you don't know, you're going to discover all the blind spots. And those are all the things that you don't know that you didn't know, which is like infinite possibilities. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't have a refund to what I signed up to. And it was amazing. It was life-changing experience, because it was the first time that I got exposed to, I'm living a story, and I've been living my story based on my ideals, based on my expectations, based on my self-sabotage. I've been living a life that it just hasn't been authentic to me, and I've been pretending to be okay in so many areas of my life. I was pretending to be okay in a job. I was pretending that I was good in a relationship. I was pretending when in fact what I wanted was something different. So I think I cried for like 40 hours straight. It was crazy. I cried so much. I cried with other people's stories. I cried with my story. I was exhausted at night because I was just crying all day. So it was like a huge purge of I'm God. Just like I love it when you say you're a child of God. Like I didn't know that I was the victim. And after Landmark, I surrounded myself with a community. I knew that for me to keep on this path of unfolding, I had to be with people that raise my frequency, people that allow me to expand, and that I had to accept everything that was vibrating at a low frequency that didn't complement my energy now and was not pushing me to my better self. And I done other things, a little bit of other psychedelics, and just surrounding myself, and I was determined to do whatever it takes to bloom to the powerful goddess that I am. But everybody could see it, you know, everyone just tell me, you're a leader, you're beautiful, your body is super fit. And I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, my abs are not as sharp as I would like them to be, you know. My shoulders are getting a little bit smaller. Oh my God, I need to go work on my shoulders. And it was just all this insecurity that I had with myself. And people are like, you look fit, like you're super ripped. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I just couldn't see and accept myself. And as I follow my journey of this self-discovery, I can start to see how my body's beautiful, my job is amazing, and I don't have to do it for anyone else because I'm secure of myself.
So first and foremost, thank you so much for that. First and foremost, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. We're not trying to sell Landmark or any other, Tony Robbins or anything. Get your medicine wherever you can. I did MITT, which is Masters in Transformational Training. And I do recommend, if you're going to get involved with that, something like that, get the medicine that you need and get out. You don't necessarily have to be a proselytizer for that personal development program, but it's a tool. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Carolina, is you did that a couple of years ago or so. Tell the people, it's an unfolding process, right? It can be a painful process when you start to face yourself.
Totally. When I went into my personal development courses, everybody was telling their problems. And, my dad killed himself, like all kinds of things. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I'm in the wrong place. Like nothing's wrong with me, right? When I started to compare myself with other people, nothing was wrong with me. And everybody was having breakthroughs. And I was like, am I the only one not having a breakthrough here? What's going on? Like, nothing's wrong with me. Everybody was going in the stage, sharing their problems, and nothing, I couldn't find anything. And that's how strong my resistance and my ego was, to see that actually you're self-sabotaging, you're being the victim, you're thinking with the lack mentality and all these things. And I finished all these programs. I invested thousands of dollars, like thousands. And I was like, Jesus, I still don't have my breakthrough. And I will see everybody like, oh no, I'm gay. And I'm telling everyone. And I was like, nothing's wrong with me. And as 2 years later now, I'm having my breakthroughs now. So I had to do my work. The integration is the most important part. It's not actually taking the class, smoking that thing, doing that, whatever you choose to do. It's about integrating what you learn. And for that, you need time. And you need to connect with yourself. You need to walk barefoot. You need to breathe. You need to do all these things that connect you with your own self-love. And that's when our answers come. So I'm still doing this work. There's times where I forget, right? And I tell Troy, hey, Troy, I need to do this, but I'm broke. And Troy is like, oh my God, what did you just say? Right? And then I was like, oh, geez, I used the wrong words. This is not in my budget right now. There's different words that we can use instead of putting the negative connotation, because it kills the possibility. It's like neurolinguistics.
Great work. Another caveat that I wanted to interject, we talked a little bit about psychedelics. Again, psychedelics are another tool. It's not for everybody. It does a lot of heavy lifting. They say it's like 20 years of therapy in one night. But here's another spiritual bypassing that I see, and I'm sure you see this as well, Jason, that people think it's the seminar or they think it's the psychedelic. And as Carolina said, it's only part of the work. The integration is the other half, or the other 75% of it. So I don't want people to get lost in the shuffle or take one thing that we're saying and be like, oh, it's that, or oh, it's this. It's always about keeping going. Jason, back to your expertise. I wrote some notes when you were talking. Maybe you can explain a little bit of the motor neurons. You were talking about the tribal structure and behaving in a certain way to be accepted by the tribal structure, which if you're outside of the tribe, that used to mean death, and that is embedded in our DNA. So what does it take in this day and age to be an innovator, a disruptor, even not in this day and age? How did we forward, any kind of evolutionary ideas in the past? Innovator, disruptive, to think differently as an Einstein or a Steve Jobs, outside of the box leadership. How did that come in, or why aren't we all the same?
Well, I think a good place to start, say someone wants to be better. They want to make more money. They want to find their true love. They want to do something different, and they sort of know they're afraid to break out of where they are. I've talked about this concept before with you in regards to the nutrition. So everything sort of ties together. There's 150 pieces in the average watch, and if you take one of the pieces out, it's no longer a watch and no longer tells time. So all these ideas are intertwined, and what I'm trying to get to is get us back to that conversation where we talked about the brain function, where we can't be in our fight or flight brain function if we want to change. If we're eating poorly, if we're living out various lies, and I think I was living many more lies than Carolina was living, we're going to be in a fight or flight reaction, which is called the reptilian brain, or it's called the R complex. And this part of the brain loves tribal affiliation. And that part of the brain, the limbic system, it only comes on when we're under threat or we're injured. And you can see how that's intertwined and interconnected with loving the tribe more. Because if you're injured, if you're a wolf and you have a broken leg, your fight or flight will be going off, but that's when you most need the wolf pack. You're not going to survive without the wolf pack when you're injured. If someone wants to move ahead in their life, the first thing they really want to do is they have to get clean with their health. And this is where your group really comes along, giving the health-based advice, because it's not just food. Go ahead.
You cut out right there, so if you could just go back, the first thing to do.
Oh, did I talk about the fight or flight? Did you get me there?
Yep, we got that. It was just just go back about 20 seconds there. The first thing you need to do.
Well, yeah, the first thing you do need is you have to get healthy. And that's what I was saying, your particular group, I mean, this Holistic Justice League, I love the name right there, trying to teach people not only how to eat properly, but there has to be spiritual evolution, the grounding, sun gazing. I saw some of the things you were doing in your most recent video where you were naked on the ground. I love that too. There's many modalities which you have to do to engage in to calm the fight or flight system down. And when the fight or flight system is negated or it's at a minimum level, the prefrontal cortex turns on. And I've talked to you before that they call this the temple, because everybody in the ancient world knew of that you can activate the prefrontal cortex, which is just behind the forehead. You sort of have the wireless internet to God or the creator, whatever you would like to call it, but you can also have access, this morphic field resonance access to these iClouds, these archetype iClouds, which are holders of all information that has ever been thought, at least on the earth, maybe farther than that. And if you don't have access to the prefrontal cortex, you're going to be too afraid to change, because the limbic system, the fight or flight system is so ingrained in bonding to the tribe that it has no ability to consider change. The prefrontal cortex is in charge of change, and even though it's in charge of change, it's still very hesitant. It's still very apprehensive about going out to make from 50 to 100, from 100 to 200. And we can see this sort of self-sabotage based scenario if you want to do a real life situation, say like take Michael Vick. We know Michael Vick was a phenomenal physical specimen, excellent quarterback, left-handed, had a slingshot for an arm, but he grew up in a tribe that had particular rituals and customs. And I believe one of those rituals and customs and traditions was dogfighting or something along that line. It doesn't necessarily have to be the particular activity. And what Michael Vick did, he had a decision to make. Will I change tribes to rise up to my full potential, or will I become afraid because I'm detached from my original tribe? And what Michael Vick tried to do, he tried to bring the dogfighting with him into his new life, which sabotaged his success. And also he seemed to have some self-worth issues because he was great when he was getting paid $1, $2, $3 million, but when he started getting paid 20 million, that's really what broke him or gave him the fear from the old tribe. It was so far away from the old tribe, that's when he started the dogfighting. That's when he started to bring the rituals with him. And even when Michael Vick got out of jail, the Philadelphia Eagles signed him to a very basic contract, and he ripped the league up. Everybody's like, oh my God, this guy was in jail, and look, he still hasn't lost a step. They gave him a $100 million contract. Couldn't handle it, too far away again, had to go back to the old tribe. And I offer self-sabotage coaching and explanations for professional athletes so that they know when they sign the big contract and when they're going to be in the big house, they're going to feel very alone, and there's certain subconscious programs and conscious cueing so that you don't get caught up in this, so that you keep your wealth, you keep your status, you develop a legacy where you're so much better than when you came from, and you're okay with that. I hope that makes some sense to give it a real life context.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. And just for time's sake, we'll be wrapping this up in the next 20 minutes, but let's get into a little bit, what I observed with modern day warriors out here, the overachieving, or the busyness, and not, just constantly going, and not putting the rest and the parasympathetic nervous system restoration first. Maybe you could speak into a little bit of that if you see the same things I'm seeing.
Well, there's the way the subconscious mind scans the first 7 years of life, it will try to almost sum up the experience in one word. It might be chaos, it might be crisis, it might be pain. And so sometimes our behaviors and our routines and our rituals might look a little different than what you see in the old family tribe. But if you look at the vibratory essence of what they're doing, the vibratory essences match. So someone who might have chronic, if they lived in a household where the dad came home drunk all the time, or the parents were coffee drinkers, or the parents smoked, it's high level. It's high intensity energy 24 hours a day. And because the limbic system is low IQ, that's you? Yeah. So because the limbic system is low IQ, I'm not saying that the kid's going to be low IQ, but when the parent is smoking or drinking coffee, the limbic system is right up to max levels. You're being raised by children in adult bodies because the limbic system is notoriously IQ. So you have this sort of constant fear, the constant energy surging through you. So when you come across a peaceful relationship, a good income, a good situation, a new lover that's really going to stoke your fires, and you come home and everything's calm, but you can't calm down and you don't know why. And it's because you've had that lightning bolt shoved up your ass for so long that you don't really know any other way. So don't necessarily think that if your dad smokes, you'll be a smoker. He could smoke and you could become a workaholic. It's the same vibration because you just go, go, go all the time. So it's all about balance. And it's all about trying to get to the prefrontal cortex so you can figure this out. You're not really going to figure this out until you live the basic truths: water, sunlight, food, exercise.
Wow, this really brings it home, to all my work, Jason. So I really appreciate this. I know the audience is going to love that. I think, Carolina, I'm kind of done. I like short and sweet, and we've been on it for 42 minutes. So, and we can always bring Jason back on. But Carolina, is there anything else that you wanted to ask Jason while he's front and center? Otherwise, I got it. Calm and lower the stress levels so that you can actually be present for, solving our own problems here, both in the family as well as, globally. That makes a lot of sense to me. It's an alignment with what I'm doing, disrupting in the health and wellness field. First of all, stress management, all of that stuff. Carolina, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up? Otherwise, we could just continue this next time.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up for today. I think we covered a lot of information, and we'll definitely talk about a couple more things on our next one. Our sense of self-worth, procrastination, all those things that relate to what Jason said comes from our imprinting. It's just about, discovering those things, being present with them. So
awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much. Please let everyone know how they can get a hold of you, how they can become a self-sabotage certified coach as well. And egregious self-promotion is welcomed here at Certified Health Nut.
They can go to my website. It's jkristoff.com. They can email me from there, or they can go to my Facebook page, just Jason Kristoff. I have a professional page and sort of a personal page that has a lot more followers. But you can just message me. I have 2 assistants, and they're always trying to answer my messages for me, but I still answer them. I'll keep doing it for as long as I can, but it's getting close right now.
Okay, great. And Carolina, where can people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me on Instagram, Architect Goddess. You can also check out my website. It's www.sunlightnutrition.com. You can send me a message there. And I invite everyone to give themselves a promotion. Give yourself a promotion in your job. Give yourself a promotion in your life, because you're worth it. So.
Yes. Awesome. And you can visit our team at theholisticjusticeleague.com and see what we're up to, building an army of wellness warriors, wellness influencers out there. And so thank you guys so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and God bless everyone and their family. And the world is going to be a better place moment by moment coming out from here. God bless everyone.
Thank you.